Every day, your City of Tempe staff goes above and beyond to make sure our community gets the best possible services and the most for our tax dollars. But how good is good? How do you measure it? And how do we know what we really need to make progress on some of our most pressing issues? To guide us, we developed a series of goals designed to help us improve our community based on our Tempe City Council's 5 strategic priorities. Reaching for excellence, we are comparing ourselves against the rest of the nation as well as ourselves. Some of our goals will help save lives. Some of them will help us save money. All of them will help us make Tempe a better place. Tempe Accelerates is an opportunity for you to get involved. Hear what city staff and community partners are doing to reach our goals. Your role? You are a vital part of our community. Share your ideas and help us craft better solutions. Ask questions. Be part of the conversation either in person or online. Check tempe.gov/Tempe Accelerates for dates and times of our next programs and collaborate with us at Tempe City Hall. Today, we will hyper-focus on 2 performance measures. Each presenting team will have 10 minutes to share data, strategies, and progress on a performance measure. Then, you will have about 10 minutes to ask questions or offer suggestions and ideas. On the back of your agenda, we have resource questions to help you participate in the conversation. Also included with your agenda is a quick survey with space you can use to include any ideas or suggestions you might have about today's topics. Thank you for participating. Now, let's accelerate.
I'm Ken Jones, Deputy City Manager, and I'm filling in for the City Manager today for our today's version of Tempe Accelerates. We have 2 exciting performance measures to address today, and I'm actually going to sit in on the first one as it involves the City Manager's office. So our first Tempe Accelerates subject today is supporting employees' work-related needs. And the main presenter today is Renee Broderick, our Internal Services Director.
Hello, everyone. We should be doing this outside. It's too nice to be in here. So,
take it away, Renee.
All right, I'll start. So, supporting employees' work-related needs is basically the short title for this performance measure. And it falls under strong community connections for a number of reasons, not the least of which is that what our employees do serves the residents and helps us all have that connection with the community so that we're providing the services and meeting all of the standards that our residents expect of us. So specifically, 2.25 is achieve a rating of very satisfied or satisfied with the quality of city services to support employees' work-related needs greater than or equal to 90% as measured in the employee survey. There's another performance measure that's somewhat related, which is 2.13, that will get talked about at a future Tempe's Accelerates, but it's basically has to do with the engagement of employees and job satisfaction. But today we're just going to talk about 2.25. So the question is, why does this matter? Well, it matters for a number of reasons, but probably the most important is when you think about it in public service, we are all the face of the city of Tempe. So it's very important that as we do our jobs for Tempe that we are supported, that we have the tools that are necessary and whatever we need to be able to do our job successfully and to provide the perfect service, not perfect, that sounds like Trump, doesn't it? Sorry. Edit that one out. Don't say, can't say anything political, sorry. Not perfect service, that's not possible, but to provide superior service for our residents. So that's important, absolutely. The other thing is that the quality of life, and I know work-life balance is sometimes a term that seems to get overused, but I think there is something very valuable in thinking about that, because we all do spend a lot of time at our jobs and we work very hard. But we also have to be able to have a balance in our life and be able to enjoy the fruits of our labors from work so that we have a life outside of work that brings us satisfaction. So supporting employees doesn't just mean providing what they need to do their jobs, but also supporting employees in an environment that provides support so that you can thrive and have a good quality of life. So those are the reasons why this performance measure matters so much. Now, we have set a fairly ambitious target. Right now, our baseline, and this is from 2016, is at 51%. And this is an average of 5 measures that we'll talk about in a minute, because there are 5 areas of the city that we measured under this performance measure. Our target is to be 90%, but right now, in 2016, actually, we were 51%. So we've set a very aggressive target, I believe, but these areas of the city that we're talking about here are very much committed to providing the support that our employees need. So I think by 2030, it's a doable goal, but it'll take a good bit of commitment on our part. So the next few slides are basically screen prints of the dashboard. So rather than try to show you the dashboard, we just drop these into the PowerPoint. So the different areas of the city or the departments that we looked at, we'll go into in a minute, but this one is the most updated information. So as of 2018, so if you remember, we did an employee survey in 2016 and then in 2018. So in 2018, we did move up. Our measure is now at 52.2%, which is the average of those 5 areas. So we're going in the right direction, albeit a little bit slow. So taking a look at the individual measures, this one is the city manager's office. So employees responded whether or not they strongly agreed, were neutral, disagreed, or strongly disagreed, or had no opinion about the kind of support that they feel the city manager's office gives them. As you can see, the number is 43.4%. Felt that they strongly agreed that they were supported by the city manager's office. And then there's human resources. So human resources received 59.5%, and they were up from 2016, which was at 56.6%. Again, the 90% is a pretty lofty goal, but if you're not going to try to set your standards pretty high, I guess you're not ever going to get there. So IT, out of the 5, did the best at 65.3%. And again, they were up in 2018 from what they were in 2014. Or I'm sorry, in 2016 that was. And risk management was at 51.2%. Again, they were up a little bit from 50.3%. So I guess the good news is we're definitely going in the right direction. The last office, strategic management and diversity, was at 41.7%. And again, that's up from 38.5%. So good news, we're going in the right direction, but we have some challenges. And Mr. Jones is going to talk about challenges.
Thank you, Rini. So as you know, the main purpose of coming here today and trying to accelerate things is to help develop strategies to achieve our goals. So we're going to just talk about a couple of the strategies. We obviously have implemented several strategies over the years, but we have a lot of room for improvement. I will say that the best strategy we could have implemented was asking people. If you're going to try to figure out whether you're supporting people well, you ask them whether they feel supported. That seems like an obvious step, but it doesn't always get taken. So I think identifying that room for improvement by asking employees how well they feel supported really helps. So just a couple of the strategies I'll touch on. Like I said, merely conducting the survey helps. We also meet and confer with our employee groups, not only in the individual group setting, but as a whole in a 6-sided partnership to discuss things like benefits and pay and working conditions and things like that. And we think that's a great strategy to continue and to enhance so that we can get constant feedback from the employee groups. We also need feedback from individual employees, and the city manager has implemented an open meeting time that's always established in his office Friday afternoons where people can drop in on an individual basis. Also, some of the things that we've known over the past is that the Tempe Learning Center was very popular, providing that venue for formal education as well as training related to your jobs. Employees have told us they really liked that, and the fact that we pared it back a bit during the economic downturn, people were pretty vocal about they felt like that was removing a pillar of support that they had had in the past. And the educational partnerships that we had in the past, we're just now getting restarted. We have the bachelor's degree, and we intend to go back with some of the master's degrees so that our employees feel like we're helping them attain those degrees that they're reaching for. So there are a lot of strategies that we've implemented, but when we're done here, we'd like to hear from you if you have some additional. If you could flip the page for me,
Yes, I will
please.
be happy to.
And then there are obvious challenges, but the one that I will focus on is the communication. It's said 3 times, communication, communication, communication. And I think it's important to note that some people don't know whether the city manager's office or IT or HR or risk management or strategic management and SMD, strategic management and diversity, provide the support they need because they aren't aware of the programs that are in those areas. So it's important to get out and communicate what those support services are that are available, and we will for sure be going down that road in the future to try to improve that communication. And then an interesting one here that I just want to touch on is the very generational expectations. We heard loud and clear from employees when we talked to them that some of the policy we have made sense in the past. Maybe it comes to leave time, when in the past people just felt like I come to work and I don't need a lot of free time, and that has changed. People value their free time more. They value the time with their families. All of those generational changes have to be taken into account, and we need to hear more from the employees about what's important to them so that we can make those changes.
Okay. And the last slide is to talk about basically what are the newer strategies that we're implementing to get to that 90%, and some of which you'll see are a little bit of a continuation of some of the things we're already doing, but we're going to ramp it up. One of the main new strategies, though, is something that comes from the city manager's office, and it's the focus on our Tempe core values. I won't put anybody on the spot and ask if you can name the 7 core values. I'm sure some of you can. But these have been foundational values that have been really part of the city for, I think, over 20 years. And one of the things you'll be seeing using these values going forward is our city manager is going to be doing sort of a road show, coming around to the various departments and meeting with employee groups in small, not the official employee groups, but groups of employees in small work groups to talk about the values and get feedback about how we are doing in living up to those values. In addition, as we move forward with some of our performance management that will be coming in the next year, the values will be something that will be integrated into that. And we will all be able to give feedback and really be able to focus on these values and kind of be able to remind ourselves what these values are. So that's an important initiative. The next bullet talks a little bit about this idea, and this comes from the Strategic Management Office. The idea is that, you know, we have these strategic priorities from council, we have these performance measures. The idea is, what does that mean for most of our employees? You know, you come into work, you're doing your job, are you really thinking about the performance measures? And really, we're all related to those. Everything that we all do rolls up to the strategic priorities of the council. And I think that's something that we need to spend a little bit more time helping our employees understand why we do what we're doing here. So that's an initiative that you'll be seeing coming from strategic management. Also, out of the city manager's office is a new initiative for employee engagement related to everything, but making sure that employees understand where they fit and they're bought in and believe in the mission is the employee engagement piece. And so there's an initiative coming from the city manager's office on that. We'll be doing another survey in 2020 with employees. So the idea is we do one every other year. So that usually happens in summertime. So next summer you'll be seeing another survey. So again, we'll be able to look at how we're doing, and hopefully our numbers are going up. The other thing that comes out of really HR is the idea that we're always looking at our employee benefits. We work closely with the Six-Sided Partnership, and we really try hard to make sure we're providing the kinds of benefits that we think help you as employees be able to work towards that work-life balance. And I know some days it's hard to feel like you have a work-life balance, but it is an important goal for us. The other part of this comes from the IT department and actually risk. And that idea there is that we should be working smarter. And I know that's something that might be overused a little bit, but the idea here is that technology really, although some days it could be frustrating, and I can say that because Mark Wittenberg's not here today, but sometimes it feels like it's a step back when you're trying to go forward, but the idea here is that technology should and will help us work more efficiently and be able to spend more time on value-added services as opposed to some of the more menial things that you might have to do if you didn't have the technology. And of course, risk management is always interested in working with employees to have a safe environment and make sure that we all understand that that's an important factor in our job. So lots of things for us to do, and just not to belabor, but I will mention that we're relaunching the employee development program, and Ken mentioned that a little bit. We want to get back to some of our basic training and making sure that we're providing the services that employees need. And as a part of that, we are launching a mandatory supervisors academy for our supervisors. And it's not just it's supervisors and above. So it goes from supervisors up to department directors. It's going to take several years to get everybody through the program because we have a fair number of those, but it is something that we are excited about. And that comes from the HR department working with employee development. And then the last piece, as Ken mentioned, is we'll be going out to bid again soon for the employee partnership. And this time we will definitely do a master's program. That was something the last time we launched it. We just did associate and a bachelor's, and this time we will definitely be doing a master's. So look forward to, watch out for that because that's a great opportunity for employees. So these are some of the strategies, but as Ken mentioned, we're both interested in hearing what we might have missed or some ideas that you all might have. So with that, I will see if anyone has questions.
So we'll open this up. Like we mentioned some of the strategies that we have to make employees feel more supported in the workplace. But ideas that you have, not maybe specific ideas or just a general conversation about what we can do better, we would appreciate it. Don't make me call on somebody.
Here, I'll make us. No,
Thanks for your presentation. Would there be some consideration on restoring some of the elements to the tuition reimbursement policy that we we minimized those in order to meet our budget requirements a few years ago, such as our PhD program and some of the elements regarding certifications?
It's interesting. I think it was maybe the last Six Sided meeting. We had a conversation about PhD because that's something that has not been included. So I think it's under discussion. I couldn't hear. Now I understand why council says sometimes it's hard to hear up here. Did you say certifications? Okay. We have to follow the IRS rules, but I think if there's an opportunity that we're missing, we should definitely look at that. Right now, my understanding, and John's here, so he can probably correct me if I get this wrong, but if a certification is required for your position, is there something we allow in that case? And you can't answer until you have a mic in front of you, so. You like how I put him on the spot?
If a certification is required for a position, it's the department's responsibility to cover any cost relating to maintaining that certification. If there is a certification that is required for another position in the city that you may have an interest in, then you can utilize tuition reimbursement to get that certification to assist you in any promotional process involved with that.
Okay.
I will say that the tuition reimbursement policy improved recently due to direct feedback from the employees that said $5,000 a year has been the level for quite a while, and the cost of education is going up, and we increased it to $6,000 directly in response to employees' requests for that. So yeah, it's been a very valuable program for a lot of employees.
The only bad thing about that is that it's up to $5,000 is tax-free, and then over that, I think it's income. But
the reason we maintained it at the level we did was because the IRS didn't change the level at which it is tax-free So the employees said, even if it's taxable, we would like an additional benefit. So we went beyond the IRS guidelines and provided a taxable benefit above the tax-free amount. Yeah. Other suggestions for how we might improve support?
Great job, guys. Good information. Just looking at the results of the employee survey.
Yeah, I know, it's terrible. I bet you I could hear you better
It's
without
better?
that.
Yeah, probably so. Just looking at the
But
results.
see, he's not gonna let you get away with that.
All right. Just looking at the results of the employee survey, realizing that some of these results are also from employees that are part-time or non-benefited. And as far as opportunities or training or development of part-time employees, maybe something to consider as reference to things that we do for all those opportunities for them as well. Because I know there's thousands of them in the city, so.
So you're talking about, when you say part-time, you're talking about our temporary employees, right?
Correct, because
Yeah.
the employee survey was open to them as well, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a good point. And I think, you know, for whatever reason, we've kind of had a culture here of, you know, taking care of our regular employees as a priority, which makes sense, but we do have a lot of temp employees, especially in your department, really. So I know, like right now, we're working on getting PeopleSoft licenses for temp employees so that they have the same kind of rights to use the system the way regular employees do. They won't have to, you know, right now our payroll prints out their notifications, so on their paychecks, because they can't go on as a regular employee can and download that stuff from PeopleSoft. So even something like that, I think, will help make a difference so that they feel more connected. And I think, you know, whatever we might be able to do looking at temp employees, I mean, sometimes it's a matter of resources, but I think it's a good point, so.
You raise a point as well that we can look at the data from the surveys and we can dig deeper into those, and we can bifurcate and split them up a little bit and say who exactly in the organization feels this way. And without identifying the employees, you get a sense for what the makeup is of the group that doesn't feel happy. And if you looked at it, you might be right. I would say that if you queried people who were temporary or part-time employees, they might have a different view of benefits than those who are here full-time and permanently. Other suggestions? Yes, sir. As a relatively new employee who just got off probation 2 days ago.
Oh.
Okay.
Congratulations on getting off probation.
Oh,
so now you can tell us what you really think.
Thank you. I've waited a long time for this. So being a new employee, only 6 months, I've heard a lot about tuition reimbursement. It seems every time there's like a panel of some sort, somebody mentions it. I looked up the policy a few weeks ago and I see that you have to work here for a year or more in order for that to kick in. So I'm just wondering if that could be expedited somehow. I know that I've already worked here 6 months, so it's not really much of a concern anymore, but that may be something to consider for future employees.
I actually think that has come up from our employee groups, and it's a really good suggestion to initiate that a little sooner so that people who are here and permanently and off probation are eligible for tuition reimbursement at an earlier date. That's a really good suggestion.
Is the 12-month look back help for that?
No.
What was the question?
12-month look back.
Oh.
Yeah, no.
No, but I think I think there is a look back in terms of when you pay your tuition. So if you had started a class, and I think there's some way to accommodate people. John's looking like he knows the answer back there.
I could just ask something real quick. I mean, the consideration could be to remove the requirement, but then have like a prorated payback policy in place if you leave the city employment a certain amount of time after getting the tuition reimbursement. So you could get the benefit, but then you'd be required to pay it back if you leave within a certain time period. I've worked at another place that had something like that.
No, there is currently a requirement that you would reimburse the city for tuition if you leave. I think it's within a year of the end of the course. So we do require that. And there has been some consideration to the idea of maybe making the waiting period, the eligibility period a little bit less. I don't think we would offer until someone got off of probation. I think there's a certain logic, I think, to that. But I think John is ready to give us more detail.
Yeah, I mean, you are correct. That is in the policy, and it's probably something we need to look at. The reason it was put there was so that we didn't have probationary employees going out and taking classes and they're not passing probation, which, let me just say, doesn't happen very often. But we didn't want them then left with having to repay that money that is to the city or not getting reimbursed for those classes. But we do work with new employees. So, I mean, if you are interested in taking a class, you can go ahead and take the class, but you just can't get your actual reimbursement for that class until you've been here at least a year. And then there is a provision in the policy that requires that you repay the city any reimbursements that have been paid out to you in the year prior to your resignation from the city. So we always try and make sure that that is clear for employees who are signing up for classes and getting approved for reimbursement, because again, we don't want them stuck with a large bill when they leave the city.
Thank you. Any others? Well, feel free to send Rini any other suggestions you have.
You can send them to both of us.
And thank you, Rini, let's thank Rini for a great presentation.
Same to you.
And our second presentation today is regarding culture and literacy engagement. And Micah and Angela are going to come up and make that presentation. I'll clear a spot for you here.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
All right, first off, who loves the library? Yes! All right, we're done. All right, so...
To lead with that.
Okay, thanks so much for coming, everybody. My name is Micah Corporell. I'm the Youth Library Supervisor at Tempe Public Library. This is my fantastic colleague and youth librarian, Angela Wiesner, from the library right next door here to the museum. Today, we will be presenting on how the library improves quality of life in Tempe, specifically through literacy engagement and resource delivery. Quality of life as a city council priority is enhanced for all Tempe residents and workers through investment in neighborhoods, parks, the arts, human services, and city amenities. There is an emphasis on equity, diversity, and inclusion in this priority because of the robust community we serve. Tempe Public Library is a hub of information that connects individuals to ideas, resources, and opportunities. Performance measure 3.33 focuses on achieving a culture of literacy and engagement in Tempe by assessing the impact library programs and services have on children, teens, and adults. The library routinely tracks program participation and seeks feedback from patrons and staff alike through surveys, comment cards, and face-to-face interactions. The most current 2019 Tempe Community Survey indicates, yes, 88% of residents are satisfied or highly satisfied with the library and resources. Thank you. Good job, everybody. And 87% also feel safe at the library. These are substantial increases from the previous year's results of 84% indicating high quality of library services and 76% feeling safe at TPL. So we saw a very significant jump. So it was good job, team. From the 2018 community survey, these results are also an overall indicator of the satisfaction with not only the library, but also baseline measures. Since not all city organizations produce a yearly community survey, the library's overarching goal is to exceed metrics set by Valley benchmark cities in Arizona by 10% over the next 5 years. The performance measure baselines for 3.33 literacy engagement examine statistics from 4 library areas: summer reading program, storytime engagement, materials usage, and public computer sessions. While these topics are broad, they are an excellent indicator of how popular programs and services are being used at TPL and in other like cities across the valley. 55.4% of all summer reading program participants completed the summer reading program challenge by reading at least 1,000 minutes by the end of the summer. 82.7% of Storytime participants surveyed check out books regularly and participate in literacy activities at home. 3.47 digital and print materials per capita or per resident are checked out by Tempe residents. 0.60 public computer sessions are accessed by Tempe residents. Despite Tempe Public Library being the smallest urban library, Tempe achieved second place for number of children who completed the 2019 summer reading program. We had over 8,000 attendees participate in 268 programs offered in just June and July. Tempe Public Library has set a goal to increase our program finishers from 55 to 67.1%. The library will be conducting continuous outreach services throughout the year at Tempe Unified School District sites. And we have already begun planning a more robust outreach campaign focused on face-to-face interactions and school visits to effectively market the summer reading program, because that honestly is how we really get the return and the involvement from our surrounding community members, especially those they may not be too familiar with our services or may not always have direct access to the library. These numbers right here above you, these numbers reveal that Tempe Public Library story times meet the needs of families that are already engaged with their children around literacy and families that are seeking additional resources to support literacy efforts. Librarians are trained to encourage family engagement, model effective ways to implement literacy activities in the home, and reinforce every child ready to read practices including talking, reading, singing, writing, and playing. These are essential skills for a child to master to successfully transition into kindergarten and be ready to learn. With inclusion always in mind, the library will be expanding Storytime services by providing a weekly sensory Storytime specifically designed to serve families with children with disabilities. In the spring and summer, the library will provide a kinder readiness class, which we already are offering, nice job, Angela, to reinforce even more skills. And more to come. Since 2017, there has been a decrease in print materials usage, but an increase in digital materials accessed. Our materials usage totaled over 845,000 items overall. The national trend reveals an average circulation decline for library materials. Although the library is maintaining a steady average of 3.47, this metric is low compared to benchmark cities such as Scottsdale, Phoenix, and Glendale. Since Tempe Public Library is limited to one location, we are expanding our services by meeting our customers where they are. As I had mentioned in the prior slide, we are going to continue bolstering our outreach campaign throughout the city of Tempe. We do have satellite sites at Escalante, North Tempe, and Westside Community Centers. Our Book Bike program is integral to providing materials for underserved populations, such as Tempe veterans, seniors, and the city's homeless population. Sean King with the Book Bike program, I think this last year, he had checked out more than 400 books to people throughout the community. He's been doing an awesome job. In 2017 to 2018, patrons used the library's public computers for over 111,000 hours. This year, computer usage dropped to roughly 100,000 hours due to the use of personal devices and Wi-Fi. To access our computers, any employee, student, or resident of Tempe is eligible, yes, for a free Tempe Public Library card. For the future, the library is working with IT to provide wireless statistical data, which is occurring much more frequently on multiple devices, as we all know, in the building for even more accurate connectivity data. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Angela to share with us how the Tempe Library contributes to other council priorities.
All right. So the work performed by Tempe Public Library contributes to other council priorities, including safe and secure communities, strong community connections, and financial stability and vitality. The library does not limit its scope of services to the specific performance measures listed here. We continuously evaluate our services that can be improved by assessing the broader needs and interests of our community. In light of recent events and national concerns regarding public safety, Tempe Public Library has taken steps to hire additional security positions to provide patron and staff support on the premises. As well as a shared use facility, the building undergoes routine maintenance and technological upgrades as the city adapts to change. The library is also dedicated to creating excellent customer service experiences through direct interactions with librarians and staff. In doing so, the library is able to provide personalized services that encourage patrons to discover, explore, and enrich their lives. To improve reading and math proficiencies, Tempe Public Library implements an intervention program of reading and math sprouts through one-on-one tutoring with literacy and math specialists. The library continues to expand on programs like Sensory Storytime, designed for families with children with disabilities, incorporating American Sign Language in our story times, and curating resources like our Braille and sensory collections. For teens and adults, the library is providing volunteer opportunities, workforce and employment help through personalized service, and Service Corps of Retired Executives or SCORE mentoring since the installation of the BRIC, or the Business Resource and Innovation Center, that's on the main floor of the library that was installed in 2016. Why this measure matters. Tempe Public Library provides safe and accessible and free educational opportunities for individuals and families, no matter the socioeconomic status. We help children develop the pre-reading literacy skills they need to be ready for school with our literacy programs. We pool local resources such as job training, homeless outreach, and English as a second language classes for our patrons to access under one welcoming roof. The library financially strengthens our community by providing a workspace for telecommuters, facilitating volunteer opportunities for our teens who are looking to learn new skills as well as build their resumes. We supply free internet access, like Micah said, to everyone with our Tempe Public Library card, as well as our Wi-Fi for individuals looking for employment and assisting entrepreneurs to achieve their business goals. By providing free access to technology, innovative programs and services, Tempe Public Library helps keep the public informed and engaged with our community. Libraries have transitioned from providing traditional brick and mortar library services to becoming national leaders in implementing innovative spaces and resources across the educational spectrum. We offer a teen center for patrons ages 12 to 18 to socialize, collaborate, and study. Some of our teen STEAM programs allow teens to develop science, technology, engineering, and art and math skills that prepare them for high-tech and competitive workforce. These programs are supported by teen STEAM kits, which include photography, graphic design, and 3D printing tools and software. By creating a culture of literacy and engagement, the library is empowering our community. Public libraries are most effective in this endeavor when we participate in city events, lead instructional classes at schools, and develop partnerships with cultural and educational institutions. Some of our partnerships include Kids Zone, local community centers, and St. Mary's Food Bank. As a result of our outreach efforts, increased program engagement, and commitment to education, Tempe Public Library was nominated for the National Medal for Museum and Library Service in 2019, the highest honor in the library field. Library staff provides database and technology instruction to patrons of all ages. Our databases have supported research for students in middle school through college, as well as providing opportunities for individuals to learn new skills or refresh old ones. Our digital library houses downloadable materials such as ebooks, streaming video, music downloads, and user guides, which can be accessed on personal devices as well as PCs. The youth library's AWE learning station in our youth area were graciously donated by Friends of the Tempe Public Library. They increased the participation of our young learners by providing them interactive, personal, educational, and safe digital learning experiences based on STREAM, science, technology, reading, engineering, art, and math. Of course, literacy is more than being able to read and write. It also encompasses knowledge and competencies in areas that may assist one's personal or professional goals. Creating a culture of literacy is fundamental for quality of life in the city of Tempe because it promotes economic growth while reducing poverty, supporting democracy and civil engagement. It contributes to disease prevention, recognizes and appreciates cultural diversity, and encourages self-esteem, confidence, and empowerment in our community. All right, thank you so much for coming. Are there any questions that you have for us?
With all of that information, we're...
Thank you, Micah and Angela, and I just want to say I love the excitement about trying to be the best library we can be. I appreciate all that. And I just want to point out a couple things that you so clearly explained during your presentation, and that is the performance measures aren't established randomly, and we don't establish them so that they're easy to attain. We work with Wydale over in Strategic Management of Diversity to reach out to a lot of benchmark cities so that we clearly identify ourselves as best in field. This isn't artificial. This is really trying to be the best we can. And the other thing is that you're willing to take on performance measures that aren't 100% within our control. When you start trying to contribute to a third grade reading level, we understand that our partners in the schools are just as critical to attaining that, but we're not afraid to say, we're going to set a goal and we're going to help attain that, even though it's not completely within our control. So I appreciate all that. It was great presentation.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So give them some hard questions now.
Throw them at us.
Or suggestions.
Down here. Nice job, you guys.
Thank you.
I thought it was interesting. I think you said that the checkout or use of printed material is going down or not as high. So I just wondered, as we look into the future, maybe some of your strategies or how you think that's going to be changed as far as when people come to the library. Is it more audio material or electronic? Just how that's shifting your business model, if you will.
So much of the balance that most regions, most municipalities are trying to manage are determining what is that demographic need. Who is our target audience? Who doesn't have access to materials? Who doesn't have access to their devices? So yes, the national trend is that it is going down. However, what I found after looking at the stats after the last few years, for the most part, we're balancing it out with incoming digital material. So Kathy Sheppy and the rest of our team over at the Tempe Public Library, they're really working diligently on determining what best model is that we can utilize to really balance out how many e-resources do we really need in comparison to the number of print materials. But that's also where outreach comes to play. A lot of times the children that may be accessing the book, that would have accessed those books, either aren't getting the support from their parents because their parents just aren't available to come to the library. They might be working 60 or more hours a week. So how do we bring the books to them? So it's really about balancing what are our e-resource needs, what is the community of Tempe looking for, by asking these questions, conducting focus groups, looking for these performance measures and comparing to other cities, but then also determining, okay, who haven't we reached out to, and how do we access those individuals that really need these resources? Does that provide some clarity to your? Okay.
Thank you. Hi, thank you. It's regarding engagement. So
I'm sorry, regarding what?
Engagement of the. Sorry. I've only lived in Tempe I have never heard of the Bike Week or the satellite locations of the library.
Mm-hmm.
And working at City Hall, it can be kind of difficult to come down to this area, especially with all the construction going on. So I don't know if that's something maybe to consider for outreach, but I would have liked to know. It would have been helpful to know about the satellite locations. So just something.
Absolutely. And that's what's really invaluable for us, is to get that kind of feedback, especially from people that aren't living within this particular zone. And we're actually just talking about the traffic up there and down here, and how that can create a challenge, even sometimes for our orbit riders. So really, and that's, as I was mentioning earlier about creating a more robust outreach campaign, what it really comes down to, because we are one location, is about really revamping some of the services that we're offering at other satellites, but how do we spread those services out with the staff and the resources that we have available. But I completely agree, and we are always up for taking suggestions as to how we might be able to more effectively reach out to various parts of the community. But where my perspective is number one is first reaching out to the schools, because we know the children are going to be there. Now, I'm speaking with my children's librarian hat on right now. But then that's where Book Bite comes into play in reaching out to other populations that may not be in school as well. But pretty much our trajectory is to keep on moving forward and growing these services. And I think as we identify needs such as the one that you offered, then we'll be able to start saying, okay, well, it looks like we're going to need this resource, or we're going to need this staff member, or this fund to make those resources a little bit more available throughout the community. Does that answer your question? Yeah. But yeah, thank you for that input. That's good for us to note.
So I was just interested, you talked about some of the partnerships you have, and you said St. Mary's Food Bank. Talk a little bit about what you do or how that evolved even.
Absolutely. So our awesome youth library team, they were really interested in moving forward with a kids cafe, which is actually a program, one of the many, many programs that are offered throughout the valley by St. Mary's Food Bank. That's an umbrella that provides services in many different ways where they're really just trying to provide meals to children and their parents that may be in need. So originally we were just leading a kids cafe. Which is wonderful, and it always depends on the demographic, where there might be a greater need in some areas versus others. And it's not St. Mary's, but another resource that actually provides an overall map as to where there is the greatest need and where these children may need additional assistance to acquire lunch at school. And so what we've decided was to revamp it and add an additional service. For instance, every library gets inquiries all the time about, do you provide tutoring services? Well, we would love to provide tutoring support every hour that we're open, but as a staff, that's just not realistic. Now, we are available when we're providing service at the desk from time to time, but the reason why I bring this up is the goal then was to recruit. I'll let you finish up with what you've moved forward with.
Yeah, so I already work with ASU interns as a part of the Mary Lou Fulton Teachers College, and a majority of them are required to take a service learning class. So they have intern locations available throughout the valley, and originally they were coming in to help with Reading Sprouts and Math Sprouts, which is our intervention programs, one-on-one tutoring with kids that are in first grade that need help with reading and third graders who need help with their math. So since we had so many inquiries about homework help, we decided that we were going to increase the amount of hours that they had. We had our interns, because there are some that do 70 hours a semester and some that do 100 hours a semester, to also have them be a part of the Kids Cafe. Because we have so many families coming in wanting help with homework or tutoring, that sort of thing, we could provide both at the same time because we do it in the Storytime room. We have several tables in there that are available for both eating and doing homework. So basically it's a part of those interns' hours. They come in and they help on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. They're available as long as they're not working with somebody else. They can help any kids that have a majority of questions we can answer. We don't always have some of the high school subject areas covered, but the interns try their hardest. And we haven't had that many of those questions. But yeah, so they're there to help with anyone that comes in with a question, homework specific. And it's been a great program. We've seen a lot more families coming in, and some days we see more for Kids Cafe, and some days we see more for the tutoring. So it varies.
I think we all have experience in here that if we don't have a nice lunch, then sometimes we absorb information not so well throughout the day. So it's a nice pairing of those resources. Does that answer your question? Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
In the last few years, there's been a big push in Tempe for kinder readiness, which is kind of a joint effort between the library as well as Human Services, the pre-K program. And you mentioned the hubs as well as outreach. Is there any plan to bring back some of the programs for child development or brain development, things like that happened in the past at some of the satellite sites?
That's a great question. Personally, that is a passion of mine. I have a 3.5-year-old and a 1-year-old, and I think that's where it all starts. Many of us who are parents are definitely aware of that reality. Right now, we're actually partnering with Human Services on the HUG grant, where we're actually going to be moving forward with providing literature to pre-readers to help build their home libraries. And we're going to be at actually Escalante Community Center leading story walk tours, but we're also going to be connecting with Thrive to 5 as well. However, what it comes down to right now, and I'm just going to be real, is it really comes down to how many staff members do we have that are available to keep a facility running while we go out and do outreach programming out of the library. So what we've really been working on the last couple of years is not only building our outreach campaign, but how do we recruit ASU interns? So there is no way our library or most libraries throughout the nation would be effective at providing the services that we're expected to provide if we did not have hundreds of volunteers and interns supporting us all year. So that essentially is the answer. As long as that we keep on recruiting staff, and as long as that we keep on recruiting volunteers and interns, that is a direction we can certainly go. And I'd be really happy to speak with other managers and representatives throughout community services, see how we can keep on bolstering those services.
Thank you. You've talked a lot about early childhood literacy development. So on the other end of the spectrum, have you considered any public-private partnerships, such as with some of our large employers here in Tempe? I love the idea that you meet people where they are. Mm-hmm. Have you looked into those things or any partnerships with economic development?
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually a really good question. I just attended a conference. Yes. So we actually had a discussion about that very thing and how we can really connect with other organizations and private entities throughout the community. For instance, my wife and mother-in-law, they own and direct a private preschool. And so it's been really rewarding for me to work in the public sector and then, okay, this is how the private sector is working. How can we really pair these opportunities? We're really not stepping on each other's toes and really support each other. So with that in mind, as we're moving forward with the Sensory Storytime, we're actually really interested in creating more services that really focus on EDI. And being able to do that, we really need to start connecting with some of those private organizations as well, not just the state-sponsored and the city organizations. Another example of that is in the teen center. Anytime that we can connect with a local company that can actually provide instruction about digital photography or graphic design, we do what we can to partner with those as well. However, what's really great about City of Tempe is we're always crossing the aisle and connecting with others in other departments, and it'd be really interesting to see what other suggestions come our way and how feasible is it for us to really be able to develop that partnership and create something.
Hey there. I love what you guys do. My daughter is a voracious reader, so she likes coming here. So we'll hear that. Just a thought. Amazon has a growing presence here in Tempe, and I'm very familiar with a lot of their programs. And the AWS platform is a really good way to possibly integrate more of a digital setting for the public library, given that we only have one location and we talk about resources and partnerships. I think that the Tempe 311 app would be really great to start with, leverage, build in the library's resources.
I'm sorry, that last sentence, can you repeat? My ears aren't working very well.
Yeah, so the Tempe 311 app?
Yes.
Maybe a really great platform to start to build that out. And then if the library doesn't have like a blossoming budget for, developers and things like that, Amazon, again, offers free services to nonprofit organizations and libraries and public facilities like this, where they'll actually loan out the engineers with the ask that you tell the story, that this is how they partner with communities to build stronger relationships. And yes, it's not necessarily a local business, it's Amazon and they're a giant, but their AWS platform is amazing and they're tremendous partners to work with, especially when you're looking for community engagement. So that might be a way to integrate more of a technology approach to getting that demographic. I mean, my daughter reads on her iPad more than she reads books, paper books, but might be an opportunity if you want to.
That's why it's awesome working in libraries, is that we're connecting with so many different companies, organizations, and community members and parents that also are very familiar with other resources. That is definitely something we can look into. However, that's a very big a resource to tackle, and primarily because anything that we do in any organization really is something that we need to be able to deliberate with other organizations and department and internal services as well as we move forward with how are we going to implement this technology, is it affordable, and then is it something that we actually can market and brand and use that to represent the city of Tempe. However, that is definitely something that I would be interested in looking into. There's so many amazing tech resources that I'm always trying to catch up. So thank you, that's excellent.
First off, great presentation, great numbers. I'm so happy that the library is doing so well. And as many probably people know, I started at the library long time ago. So this used to be my home. So I was curious on the little library program, the neighborhood libraries. I was curious if you had any info on how's that going, updates, comments, successfulness of it, etc.
Absolutely. Kathy Husser's going to answer that, but I just want to say that I saw all the really lovely little libraries today when I was on the website. Very cool stuff. So, but Kathy Husser's, she's the knowledge behind that answer.
That's a good question, Alex. So when we started it about 3.5 years ago, we had all 4 zip codes that were represented, and we maxed out our $10,000 budget. And then every year since then, it's gone down just a little bit because the zip codes have been saturated. So this year, we did place 5 little libraries compared to our very first year, which we placed about 18 little libraries. So it's still a prolific program. However, because folks that have gotten their little library have gotten it and they keep stocking it, we don't get the requests for new ones as much anymore. But they're still going strong.
Are those mapped?
And they are mapped. Yes, they are. They are linked to our website and also on the national site as well.
Well, let's thank Angela and Micah for that great presentation. Thanks. Thank you all for being here today, and congratulations to Strategic Management University. You guys are hosting a great program, gets a lot of interest. And along those lines, December 5th is our next presentation where you can learn about composting and community carbon neutrality. So please join us on December 5th. Thank you all for being here.
Send us your ideas and suggestions to tempeaccelerates@tempe.gov and visit us at tempe.gov/tempeaccelerates.